Hello, my name is Matt Singer. I'm the arts and culture editor at Willamette Week, and my guest today is Anis Mojgani. He is the freshly minted poet laureate of Oregon. Anis, thank you so much for agreeing to talk today.
Oh, thank you, Matthew. Thanks for wanting to talk.
Of course. So there's a lot going on in the world to talk about, but the reason why we started this series was to talk to people kind of about what they're doing in quarantine. So I'll just start by asking you kind of what have you been doing the last kind of 3 months to keep yourself occupied and sane?
10-4. So my time in quarantine, I feel like don't know quite exactly how I've spent the last 3 months. Honestly, there's definitely like the patches of days where it seems as if it's Friday and the next thing I know it's Tuesday, and I have no idea what transpired in those days in between. But I think for me, like the big challenge has been how to establish a creative routine. Even though I work for myself, I generally try to do my work outside of the home. So since quarantine has started up, I feel a little bit more untethered than usual. And so a lot of the time is just kind of like, sort of just existing and seeing like how I fit into this new space and how does this new space fit into me.
So what does it mean to be poet laureate? I guess for you more on a personal level. I mean, it seems like that as a poet, that's the highest honorarium you can get, I would imagine. I mean, but so what is that like for you?
I mean, like, there's definitely definitely there's an aspect of like with regards to what that feels for me as a writer in my profession and a career and a network and an audience. Like, it definitely feels awesome and like validating and feels an accomplishment to look back over my years of work and feel proud about that. But it also, just like similarly as a poet, as an artist, it allows me the widening of my imagination and the resources and the like charge to go out and see what can you do with poetry, Anis, that like serves the people in the state that you live in, that serves these communities, that hopefully opens them up more to what poems and poetry can be, to strengthen that engagement, to introduce poetry to their lives. And so for me as an artist, there's definitely like the larger aspect of it is simply that like, if there's an idea that I have of what it means to like carry poetry to other people, I have so many resources at hand that allow me to make that happen.
And you're taking over this role at, as we talked about, a very pivotal moment in the history of this country, not just for the state of Oregon, obviously. What do you feel like is your responsibility as poet laureate in these times that are happening to kind of speak to what's happening? I mean, is there like an added layer of responsibility that you feel maybe now assuming this role that maybe you wouldn't have like a year or two ago?
Like, this is a very challenging time, already with COVID, and it has become that much more emotionally difficult, because of that. But it's also a moment where we are seeing, I do feel, something that we have not seen, at least for a very, very long time in this country, with regards to the response to what is happening. And so there definitely is, a responsibility that I feel from myself to myself, with regards to being an artist and responding to the world around me. Being a person who is connected to the city that I live in and seeing the things that are happening and that have continuously happened before this, and also being a Black American, and like, how does that connect me to like this wider community of people. And so it definitely is, I think, I don't know, it's a challenging aspect for me to reinvestigate and reconfront and re-ask and reconverse with myself. Like, what am I doing? How are the ways to be part of this? What are the ways that I need to be advocating for the things that are very, very dear to me? And so it's hard, you know, like you get kind of lackadaisical and you get like easy and apathetic when things aren't like directly confronting you, when things aren't directly confronting the people that you hold dear. But you know, I do have a responsibility, you know, and it's definitely a challenge over these recent couple weeks of like, how are the ways to take a thing that I use to process my interior space in this very emotionally heavy time, and also a thing that I use to connect to other people and to ideally connect other people to other people.
So you host or have hosted the Verselandia poetry competition, which is it? It's all high school age kids. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's all high school kids.
Mm-hmm. You know, I think that there's, you know, I'm sure, you know, it's a cliche, and I'm sure you are aware of it and has been probably have to talk about it too much, but just about, you know, I think poetry is looked at as being, you know, you wonder if this is like an archaic form to a certain degree. But you know, you're hosting these you know, poetry competitions with young people who are grasping onto it, and obviously, you know, they want to do something with it. So, what does that tell you about the sort of role in general of poetry in contemporary society?
The overwhelming majority of our relationships to being introduced to poetry is being handed a few poems throughout our schooling that were very, very old, that were very archaic, and probably did not speak to the majority of us, you know, particularly if you were of color, you know, like these were not poems that spoke to you. But like just overall, definitely like it didn't speak to one's life. And so, you know, with something like Verselandia, you know, definitely one of the things that's really beautiful about it is that it does open and allow people, not simply like the youth that are involved, but audiences that come to be able to see and witness and be reminded maybe for the first time that poetry is a tool that is just sitting there waiting for us at any time to pick up, and that its relevancy is only as large as like our engagement with it.
Obviously, like rap is the dominant musical culture and really communicative culture of this generation, and maybe probably just the generation right before this as well. And you often hear people will say, well, you know, rap is poetry, and it's almost like a way of trying to elevate rap by comparing it to poetry. But really, I feel like, you know, rap is its own thing. It doesn't necessarily need to be compared to poetry to have a value. What do you sort of think about that? I mean,
it's like a mix of stuff, but I mean, like largely I agree. You know, I think that, you know, I think that the history, I mean, like, you know, ultimately, like, if one is able to get a kid, like, to open up their world to other artistic explorations and expression by like showing them how rap can be not necessarily synonymous, but like in tangent with poetry, then that's amazing and it's incredible. But it also often feels like it rings of just kind of like, you know, coded language, you know, that it's like rap is something that only if we take this thing that is urban, i.e. code for black, and hold it up against poetry, which is largely code for white, you know, then we suddenly are able to give like rap credit, to give it worthwhile existence. And
Right.
the reality is that like rap and hip hop have connected so many more individuals in the modern age to expression and to themselves and to them engaging in questions with themselves and their lives and their peers than poetry has, you know? So it doesn't need to be like uh, um, qualified by being in line with poetry. You know, like you said, you know, like rap is its own thing. And, you know, just like how a song is its own thing, you know, music is its own thing. And there's definitely like ways in which that those things can learn from one another. And it sometimes like can be very similar or even the same, you know, um, but you know, I when I want to read a poem and when I need a poem, I don't put on a Tribe Called Quest album. I don't put on Mos Def, you know? Like I go grab Lucille Clifton. I go grab Ross Gay, you know? And similarly, like if I need to listen to rap, you know, if I need hip hop, you know, it's like I put on Run the Jewels. You know, it's like I'm not going to my bookshelf to get this thing that speaks to like a certain part of me.